Hello, my friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family. So, guys, it looks like we might have a very interesting comet coming our way. We've been talking about Comet Atlas, and all the signs are that this could be a huge, huge one, and one for the history books. And they say this might be a remnant of the great comet that came before, oh gosh, about 170 years ago. And it can be the brightest comet in decades, as we're seeing from multiple sources saying this. And it's surprising. It's surprising the astronomers because of how bright it is becoming. Yeah, pretty interesting stuff. So it's also known as C2019Y4. This comet was discovered by astronomers at the Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Last Alert System, and hence Atlas. Curious though, because Atlas is the titan that holds the Earth on his shoulders. Interesting. And so it was discovered in Hawaii, December 2019. At that time, the comet was exceedingly dim, but the comet became 4,000 times brighter in just a month. This increase is far greater than astronomers predicted and could potentially signal that the comet may soon be exceptionally bright. So, Comet Hale-Bopp, I remember that one very well. And that was the last great comet seen from the northern hemisphere, and it was something to watch for sure. So, Comet Atlas continues to brighten much faster than expected. Some predictions for its peak brightness now border on the absurd, stated Carl Badams of the Naval Research Lab. Now, they tell us comets are essentially dirty snowballs. As the comet approaches the sun, the heat will drive off some of the ice, which makes up the nucleus. And if the comet holds its shape as it continues to heat, then it could grow as bright as the planet Venus, which is the brightest object in the night sky other than the moon. Or perhaps even more, as it's been surprising the experts. And it is right now approaching the orbit of Mars. So it's closely following the path taken by one of the greatest comets in history, the Great Comet of 1844. At its current rate of brightening, it can be visible to the naked eye under dark skies during the first weeks of April, so pretty soon. And boy, we are blessed with extreme dark skies where we are, so we can see the whole Milky Way. So it should be a very exciting thing to see for sure. Skywatchers in the Northern Hemisphere, this would be a sight unseen since the dual show of comets, Hyakutake in 96 and Hale-Bopp following year later. And when Hyakutake was at its peak, the tail of the comet stretched halfway across the sky. I remember those, do you?
No, I don't remember those ones. I remember a little bit about Hale-Bopp, but I was so busy during that time.
I actually had, at that time, I had a telescope, so I was watching them, and enjoying it because I love watching the night sky. So, the timing of this is so curious, and we see everybody's talking about this. This is a really something that has people buzzing, and the timing is so interesting. When we look at Nostradamus' Quatrain 262, Mabus, and people have wondered who Mabus is or what it signifies. Then will soon die. Then will come of people and beasts a horrible rout. Then suddenly one will see vengeance, 100-hand thirst, hunger, when the comet shall run. So it's just so curious. People have wondered what Mabus is, and I've talked about this dozens and dozens of times. And, is Mabus, for instance, as many believe, it actually stands for Abbas, Mahmoud Abbas, who is the leader of the Palestinian people. Well, coincidentally, this just came out like 6 hours ago. Palestinian officials deny rumors about his health. Palestinian officials on Saturday denied that Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas has been hospitalized after testing positive for COVID-19. So that's curious. So is it Abbas Mabus, Mahmoud Abbas? Or is it Ray Mabus, who was the former United States Secretary of the Navy, and today, coincidentally, he's a senior advisor to Google Ventures. director of 2 public companies and a lecturer at Harvard Law School, still an executive fellow at Harvard Business School and a member of the CFR, Council on Foreign Relations, and the Explorers Club. And, coincidentally, he's in the news in the last couple hours as well. You see Ray Mavis and Mike Espy, Agriculture Secretary under President Bill Clinton, and they're talking about the bailout money and everything. And curious, because he's in the news the same day as Abbas is in the news. When we get just that news that the comet's coming, it's going to be bright, might be the most spectacular one we've ever seen in our lifetimes. And of course, we know that they give us these things in movies. Cindy was saying you got to look at Ice Age collision course because, that's all about this and this type of thing. Interesting times. And then I've done a whole video on Mother Shipton before, going through the entire prophecies. And this sticks out too. A fiery dragon will cross the sky 6 times before this earth shall die. Mankind will tremble and frightened be for the 6 heralds in this prophecy. For 7 days and 7 nights, man will watch this awesome sight. The tides will rise beyond their ken to bite away the shores, and then the mountains will begin to roar, and earthquakes split the plains to shore. And flooding waters rushing in will flood the lands with such a din that mankind cowers in muddy fen and snarls about his fellow men, bares his teeth and fights and kills, and secrets food in secret hills, and ugly in his fear he lies to kill marauders, thieves, and spies. Mankind flees in terror from the floods, and kills, and rapes, and lies in blood. And spilling blood by mankind's hands will stain many bitter lands. So it's interesting how the prophecy of that, because it's all about the dragon and the dragon's tail. And when the dragon's tail is gone, man forgets and smiles and carries on to apply himself. Too late, for mankind has earned deserved fate. So, it's curious, because is this talking about Comet? Is it talking about, when we're talking about the dragon, because the dragon has represented Satan. Satan's the adversary in the Bible, and many believe that, really that guy with the pitchfork and the horns is representative of what we would call the Draconians, the Draco, the Alpha Draconians. Interestingly enough, there's legends all over the world of that species, and, every native tribe, indigenous people all around the world have the same legends. And so is this a tool of the Draco? And do we really know that a comet's a dirty ball of ice? Electric universe theory would say otherwise. And do we really know that it's not even maybe a ship or a missile, a projectile? We don't even know. Some sort of weapon? Truly, we don't know. Science has not been kind to us in many ways with giving us different paradigms that end up getting rewritten later on as we learn more and more. So it's really interesting, to look at these. And it's really interesting, too, because when you look at the end of Mother Shipton's prophecy, which is like the end of the Hopi prophecy, what do they say happens? Well, at the end of the Hopi prophecy, benevolent beings come out of ships, basically, on land and help us to rebuild. And it's not just the Hopi that say that. Many Native American tribes say that as well. We could go down into Mesoamerica and talk about the waiting for the arrival of Quetzalcoatl. And, that is the same thing. It's waiting for these beings that come. And so we see, and those that live will ever fear the dragon's tail for many a year, but time erases memory. You think it's strange, but it will be. And before the race is built anew, a silver serpent comes to view, and spew out men of like unknown to mingle with the earth now grown. Cold from its heat, and from these men can enlighten the minds of future man, to intermingle and to show them how to live and love, and thus endow the children with the second sight, which is talking about the pineal gland, which has been suppressed by this culture that we live in and made something to fear of, because when your pineal gland is awakened, you can see through the lies of which we are seeing. And that is a natural thing, so that they might grow graceful, humble, and when they do, the golden age will start anew. So it's interesting. We are interesting. We are living in interesting times.
Oh my gosh. I mean, it couldn't be a better time to be alive. It couldn't be more fascinating, and it couldn't be more frightening. It couldn't be more invigorating. It couldn't be truly. We're blessed with a lot of stuff happening.
Yeah. We could talk about the book of Revelation. Woe to you, O earth and sea, for the devil comes with great wrath, knowing his time is short. So, who is that devil? Well, the devil, Satan, it's the adversary of man, and it's the system that we find ourselves in. It's the leadership we've had here and the power behind the human leadership that has been here. And so it's interesting how when you start looking at all these different people all over the globe, all saying the same thing, but somehow, we've been taught, and it sank into so many people's minds to be very dogmatic, to think that, well, only our interpretations of things is the right one. It's very egotistical, it's ego-centered, it's appealing to your sense of pride, and it's keeping you separated from others, because they've told us what they use as far as their techniques. It's as we said, it is the Tower of Babel. Look, humanity's united. We can't have that. Come, let us go down there and let us scatter them. And let us separate the languages by taking away the pineal gland so people could no longer really see the truth, get impressions from each other, read each other's minds, basically. And there's CIA studies that show in these times our psychic abilities are going up. They've known about this for over 50 years. And so you can't hide the truth anymore. And so all the house of cards of lies is starting to crumble. And so once again, they will pull out all the stops like they have done before. And perhaps the Younger Dryas does coincide with the Sumerian writings talking about Enlil and wanting to wipe out all of humanity. And so there was an impact somewhere in Greenland. And, the shards, the remnants of that impact, appear to have bounced back up in the air, and perhaps some of it was the thing coming into the atmosphere, breaking up into pieces, create all the Carolina Bays. We see evidence of that all over the east coast of the United States and even into Nebraska and the heartland. So, very interesting times. Are we watching a replay of history? Are we watching something that happens every 12,000 years as we go through this particular area? And as we start to rise up in consciousness, so that the controllers are no longer able to control us. So perhaps this is all part of that bigger scheme that's played out in the past and is playing out once again.
Indeed, I do believe that. I think it's playing out again, but this time we can take control of this story that we write. It's our story.
And that's where it is all about coming together. All about releasing our dogma, our prejudices, our biases, and instead of, as Mother Shipton says, snarling and hoarding and guarding, instead, reaching out a helping hand and lifting people up and pulling together as a united people, because that is the thing that they cannot have. And so I know there will always be trolls that say, I thought this was supposed to be not a fearful channel. Well, we can't stick our head in the sand, can we? Or we could. Go ahead, stick your head in the sand. But see where that's going to get you. Because if people didn't do any prep, and they're going to be the ones that are the first people starving, the first people getting desperate, the first people thinking, what am I going to do? So preparations, are always a wise thing to do, but cultivate love and cultivate compassion for each other. For truly, we are eternal anyway, and the body is just a vehicle. As always, my friends, stay safe, God bless, and namaste.
Namaste.